Imagine getting a message on your phone from your deceased father. God forbid, of course, if your father is alive, and may he rest in peace if he is no longer with us. But this isn't a horror story, my dear friend. This actually happened to a person we're going to talk about today. This person's father had passed away 11 years ago, and he found this letter from his father, which he had written before he died. Why did the father write it? And what's in this letter? This, my dear friend, is the plot of the novel The Orange Girl by the author of the very famous book Sophie's World, Jostein Gaarder. If you've come across the novel Sophie's World and read it before, let us know your thoughts on it. Try to convince me to get into the world of novels, my dear friend. The orange is sour and sweet, just like life itself. And from this novel, we will hopefully draw a beautiful conclusion. After we briefly summarize this novel, I want it to have an impact on you, making you think about your life and rearrange your priorities. But before we start, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and let's hear what this novel holds for us. And welcome, my dear friend, to the Easy English Podcast. The story is about a boy named Georg, a 15-year-old who is very interested in astronomy and also loves music, just like the speaker. One day, he came home to his house on the outskirts of Oslo. When he got home, he saw his mother and his stepfather. What was strange was that his paternal grandparents were also visiting that day. The reason for their visit was to tell Georg, "We found this letter from your deceased father." The envelope was addressed to Georg, and it was clear that it had never been opened, and no one knew what was inside. The author says the envelope was not small, containing only a single letter. It was clear that there were a large number of pages inside. Georg took the letter and went to his room. The letter, my dear friend, brought back feelings of discomfort. He had lost his father when he was only 3 years old, and had lived a strange life without him. It was definitely a painful feeling. When he entered the room, Georg muttered these words to himself. It was natural for me to pity him. He lived in a time other than mine, and I was condemned to live my own life. If everyone collapsed under the weight of a letter from their deceased fathers, we wouldn't be able to live our lives. This means, my dear friend, that he was trying to console himself, as if he was saying, "Don't break down, Georg. It's just a letter from your father." If everyone fell apart just because they received letters from their dead fathers, we wouldn't be able to go on with our lives. He was telling himself to be patient. He begins to read the letter. In it, his father, Jan Olav, goes back in time to when he was 19 years old. He was standing on a train in Frogner, and there was a girl also on the train holding a brown paper bag full of oranges, about 5 kilograms, give or take. The girl and Jan were exchanging glances, and he felt a slight attraction to her. As usual, when a subway or train stops, it goes through some shaking. During one of these shakes, John noticed that the bag of oranges was about to fall from the girl's hands. So he quickly followed her, wanting to help. Weeks passed, and during these weeks, Jan would always go to that station and walk around the surrounding streets, trying to see if luck would strike and he would meet the orange girl again. After a few weeks, he entered a cafe in that area and was surprised to find the orange girl there. She looked at him, but smiled slightly this time. Jan describes that smile and says it was capable of melting the world with its charm. This orange girl, my dear friend, was no ordinary person. He says that she also had a bag with oranges in it at the cafe. After he saw her smile, he went to her table, pulled up a chair, and sat down. He took a moment of silence, trying to find the words to apologize for the last time. In his nervousness, he blurted out, "You're a squirrel." Referring to the way she had run from the train, she replied with a small, slight smile. He says she suddenly stood up with dignity and turned to leave. He says what caught his attention was a tear in her eye. He was surprised, wondering about the reason for that tear. He writes in the novel, "The girl was strange, coming from a more wonderful legend than our own." Then he writes a question for his son, who's reading the letter. "George, do you know what time is?" This is a beautiful question. Some people say that time is not the same as duration, and there are details about that. Anyway, at this question, George stopped reading for a while. He began to think, why is my father telling me this story and writing this letter in the last days of his life? It was strange because the words he was saying must have been very important. They were the last words he wrote before he died. Then a question came to his mind. Was the story my father is telling me actually real? Or is it a novel he's making up? After some time of thinking, analyzing, and asking questions, he went back to reading the letter. His father was describing the girl in a very romantic way, saying the girl possessed something akin to a striking, captivating magic. George was surprised by his father's romantic description and his interest in the orange girl, even though nothing had happened between them to strengthen those feelings. He had only met her twice. Once he messed up, and once in a cafe. George continues reading and finds his father writing, "The orange girl was and will remain a perplexing mystery." George continues reading, and his father describes his sadness over the disappearance of the orange girl for the second time. The father continued to search for the orange girl. He says that while he was thinking about how he could meet her again, he noticed that both times he had met her, she had a brown paper bag of oranges. He realized that most stores give plastic bags, except for one store, a fruit and vegetable shop that opens every Monday. So, his father started going there regularly, hoping to meet this girl. His analysis was successful. He found the orange girl that day, and she was wearing an orange raincoat. The speaker wonders about this girl's connection to oranges. Anyway, on that day, she was carefully picking out oranges, one by one. He was happy to see her and headed to her to talk to her, But she finished with the oranges, turned, and got into a Toyota, driving away. He felt a third wave of sadness and regret at losing the orange girl. The father says he had a million questions in his head. What was the story with this strange girl? What was her love for oranges all about? And she was wearing an orange coat. What was the secret of that tear right after her smile? It was all very puzzling. He started writing down many possibilities. Does she have a shop where she needs these oranges? Or does she give them to small children or poor people she knows? Or this or that? He listed many possibilities and hypotheses. But the boy says, as I was reading these possibilities, I thought, no, the orange girl must be a sorceress, for she succeeded in captivating my father. George, as he read his father's words, was astonished and kept thinking about this question. My father, on his deathbed, writes me this most important message, telling me this story about the orange girl, her coat, and a train. There must be something important he wants to tell me. The boy's curiosity would soon be satisfied in the next pages. In the fourth attempt to meet the orange girl, the father thought that if he went to a certain place on Christmas Eve, he might find her there. And that's exactly what happened. His guess was correct. He found her at a celebration in the same place. But there was a slight difference this time. The girl finally did not have any oranges with her. He also had the chance to talk to her. He was definitely enjoying himself, but she made it clear that there was no way they could meet for the next 6 months. She told him, I'm sorry. I see that you're interested in me. I see that you've been following me and sometimes being annoying. I know you've been coming all this way, but during these 6 months, we won't be able to meet at all. However, if you can be patient and endure this 6-month period, after that, we can meet every day if you like. The most important thing is for you to wait for 6 months. He asked her in surprise, 6 months? Why? She said, because that is the exact time you have to wait. Then the orange girl got into a taxi, said goodbye to him, and said, Merry Christmas, Jan Olav. His feelings of joy were mixed with feelings of dread. How did she know my name? The father wrote these questions to his son. Why does the girl buy large quantities of oranges? Why, when they met a second time at the cafe, did she smile and look at him kindly, even though the last encounter was embarrassing? And why was there a tear of sadness in her eye? Why were they not supposed to meet for the first 6 months? And the most important question, how did she know his name? The father wrote to his son, who was reading the letter, if you know the answers to these questions, you will know the mystery of the orange girl. We are also close to knowing this mystery. About 4 months after their last meeting, not 6, the father was sitting in his house with his mother and father, as he was not yet a father himself. He was 19. On that day, he received a postcard with a charming picture of an orange grove. The card said in capital letters, Patio de los Naranjos, which means the Orange Grove. The card had a Spanish stamp, which meant it came from Seville, Spain. On it was written this phrase: "I have been thinking of you. Can you wait a little longer?" And she had drawn her cute squirrel-like face. The speaker says, "Oh my God, wasn't the man already waiting?" The boy was waiting, but no, she had to stir his emotions. A terrifying question comes to mind. How did she know my home address? It was clear that the orange girl was no ordinary girl. For the father, it was too much. He packed his things and traveled to Seville. The first place he went was the orange grove shown in the postcard. He saw the grove, then moved to the city and began to explore it. He noticed that the most beautiful neighborhood was Santa Cruz, and the most beautiful square was Plaza Alta. In this square, in this meeting, the secrets were revealed. She asked him, "Jan Olav, don't you really remember me?" He thought about her, trying to jog his memory. And he finally remembered her. She was Veronica, his childhood friend who had moved away with her family when she was 7 years old, and he had lost all contact with her. That's why she knew his name and his address. So he asked her, "Then why didn't you tell me from the beginning?" She said, "In my opinion, things we want to get should not be easy. They should require hard work and effort to get them. I didn't want you to meet me just because I was a childhood friend. I wanted you to get to know me all over again." Then she said something shocking. "Don't think you were the only one searching for me, as if I were a butterfly you were trying to catch. I was also looking for you. I am part of the story. And I always thought that if Jan Olav wanted to find me, where would he be? So I would try to go to the places where you might be looking for me, so I could find you in the end." After that, to make a long story short, she went and met his mother and father. The strange thing was that as soon as she entered, they recognized her immediately, saying, "Oh, Veronica, you've grown up." Jan's memory had failed him. She said to him, "I even visited your house and met your mother and father, and they recognized me right away. And I told them at the time that I was going to travel to Seville and ask them not to tell Jan about my plan, because she really wanted him to work to find her." He then asked her, "So what is the secret of these oranges?" She said, "It's part of me. As an art student, we were supposed to paint these oranges." Their beautiful conversation went on until the end of the night. After that, they decided to meet in their original city, Oslo. The reason for the 6 months was that she was on a scholarship or a mission to Seville. So she had told him that they would not be able to meet for the first 6 months. But the longing and love for him was what made her send that letter, and his persistence was what made him travel to Seville. The night ended. The father asked his son, who was reading the letter, a question. "What is a human being, George? What are we worth? Are we not just a whirlwind of dust in the wind?" Suddenly, George's mother knocked on the door and kept calling his name. George was silent for a moment, then replied to her, "My dear little orange girl, I have been thinking of you. Can you wait a little?" He couldn't see the expression on her face, but he could hear the sound of her breathing, and with a crying tone in her voice, she said to him, "Is he really talking about this?" Yes, my dear friend. George's conclusion was 100% correct. The orange girl his father was talking about was his mother, whom he had married. The purpose of this letter was to tell him how precious his mother was and how much he and she had worked to get to each other. He gave him the story of their meeting in detail and wanted to teach him that getting a certain goal is not an easy matter, especially if it is valuable, like the orange girl. His mother opened the door and entered, and sat next to her son. He hugged her and said, "Dad has left us." It was a moment filled with tears. After that, George asked for his mother's permission. "Excuse me, let me finish this letter, and then I will be with you." What remained of the letter was not much. The father mentioned in the letter that they got married and lived together. And after a year and a half, they were blessed with George, the boy who was reading the letter. A short time later, Jan discovered that he had cancer and knew that he was going to pass away. He wanted to tell him this story because he wished he had lived a little longer and could have told him the story of the orange girl in person and truly conveyed the emotions to him. But he knew the end was near and that it was one of the things he wanted to pass on to his son. So he wrote him the story of the orange girl. The story is very deep and very moving. He writes to his son, "We are all living a unique and great adventure, and no one knows its secret. We dance and play and run and chatter and laugh in a world whose beginnings we have no power to understand. This dance and this game are the music of life. You hear it everywhere you find a person." And then, at the end of the letter, the father asks his son, "If you had the choice to have something you love, but you know that one day you will lose it, would you choose to have this thing? Or would you say, 'No, it's better for me not to have it from the beginning'? For example, it's like I offer you $1 million and tell you that you will have it, but you will lose it after a year. Would you prefer to take the $1 million and lose it after a year, or would you not take it at all and live your life as it is?" This question is very deep, my dear friend. The message he wants to convey to his son from this question is that the father eventually got what he wanted and got the orange girl. And today he knows that he is saying goodbye to her and will leave everything he loves, whether it is the orange girl or his newborn son. I will not tell you George's answer. I want to take your answer. George discovered at the end of the letter that he now knows his father. He discovered that his father was a compassionate, dreamy person who had a sense of life as if it were magic. He discovered that his father was the reason behind his love for space and why he always gazed at the stars. Even in the letter, the father quoted a beautiful line of poetry. Whoever does not live in their time will not live in any time. This is true. It is as if he is saying in Arabic, live now. Live in the moment. Enjoy it. Leave the topic of losing it aside. Live its details as you love and drink it. It is as if the father is writing these sentences as he's leaving this life, in the last moments of his life, and he wants to convey a message to us with Georg. That life is a blessing, and life is beautiful, and life is a rare thing, and as long as you have it, enjoy it despite all its circumstances, just like the orange, sweet and sour at the same time. It is a chance you got, and as long as you got it, live the experience as it is. Life is a chance. We should live as we love and fill as we love, despite everything harsh in it. We have a chance to tell the person we love that we love them. You have a chance today to tell any person all your sincere feelings towards them, whether it is love, loyalty, or a feeling of happiness. We still have the chance to reflect on the beauty of reality, my dear friend, from which, unfortunately, modern devices have distanced us a lot. Today, there are many beautiful things around you. Reality is beautiful. Reality is a gift. And John says in the letter, we rub our astonished eyes and surrender to this miracle, the miracle which we are preparing to leave soon. This novel, it is as if it reminds me and you that life is a chance, and the people who are in your life are also a chance, and that having a family and friends is also a very beautiful thing, and that life itself is beautiful, and nature is beautiful, and that the things we love, we will definitely be able to reach them with effort. And this is true, definitely, unless the things are impossible to obtain. But as long as it is within the scope of possibility, then we can obtain it. But it needs hard work, just as it happened with the orange girl. I wish you, my dear friend, a long life. I hope you enjoy this life, as you should, because you have the right to enjoy it. And that you don't leave it soon, God willing. And if you leave it, at least you would have lived its details and taken advantage of the opportunities in it, like the $1 million, and enjoyed it, even if it was for a year. And in conclusion, may God grant you the orange girl you wish for, or may God grant you, my dear friend, a person like Jan Olav who strives to reach you. Here ends this episode. If you liked it, give it a like and share it with those you love. This is also an opportunity you shouldn't miss. Subscribe to the channel to receive the new content from the Easy English podcast. And don't forget to turn on the notifications to know when the episode is released. Thank you for your good listening, and thank you for your priceless time.